Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the bronzer tag. You might have seen my blush tag. I did it a week ago, so if you haven't yet, go ahead and check that out. But like I said in that video, I am going to be using my friend Tara Brooks' prompts. She did not create this tag, but she did add questions in and like kind of modify, so I'm just using her questions that she did. I have all of my bronzers spread out right here in front of me, and I'm just realizing how many bronzers I have. I didn't really realize that I had this many because usually they are in this drawer, and then besides my creams are in a separate drawer. So in my blush tag, I did choose a cream and a powder for each category. I may or may not do that in this one. I'm gonna try my hardest to mention both cream and powder, but I don't have like as many creams as there are questions, so there's definitely gonna be repeats and there's probably gonna be some categories that I skip, but I don't know. I guess we'll just see as we go. I'll throw in a cream or a powder, but if I don't have a powder for one, I'll just say a cream. If I don't have a cream for one, I'll just say a powder. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. The first question is a year-round favorite, and immediately I thought of my Charlotte Tilbury Bronze and Glow. As you can see, I love this. I've had it for a little bit over 2 years now, and I use it very, very often, especially the bronzer. I mean, obviously, like we're talking about the bronzer, but I use both of these powders and I love them both, but particularly the bronzer is so special to me. It's just a really lovely tone. It's not too cool toned, but it's really not warm toned at all. So I can definitely see how this pulls more cool toned on other skin tones, but on mine it's like the perfect neutral bronzer with just like a hint of coolness, but it's not gray. So I feel like it's just great for bronzing, and I use it all the time. It looks good with warm toned looks, it looks good with cool toned looks, it looks good all the time. I love how it's on a flat matte, so it's just one of my favorites that I am like constantly reaching for with any look throughout the year. So I haven't had any of my cream bronzers for a year except one, and it's more like a contour stick, so I'm not gonna mention that. So we're just gonna move on to the next question. And that question is a blush that is worth the hype. All right, I do have a cream and a powder for this one. So for the cream, I am totally 100% behind the hype on the Fenty cream bronzers. I have the shade Butter Biscuit, and it is one of my top favorite bronzers in general of all time. I feel like I'm close to hitting pan on this, but I really don't know. I love the tone of this, like just for the tone and the shade alone, it is perfect. I feel like it's pulling really cool toned on camera, but in person it just has this really nice, like almost caramely undertone that's ever so slight, and it looks amazing on my skin. And I love how sheer it is and buildable and blendable, and I just am obsessed with this. It is definitely worth the hype to me. A powder bronzer that I think is worth the hype, that I have seen hyped up a lot, especially on Instagram, is the Becca Sunlit bronzers. I see everyone rave about these, especially on Instagram. Like I said, so many of my friends on Instagram have gone through multiple of these bronzers, and I was always like, man, I want to try that so bad. So about 6 months ago, I picked this up with Ulta points, and I was not disappointed. This is quickly one of my top 3 favorite bronzers ever. I don't know if I mentioned this. I have the shade Bali Sands, and it is so perfect. I love the texture. It's like a very thin powder. It's not like too loosely pressed, like there's not a ton of kick up. So I feel like it goes on really skin-like and sheer, and you really cannot over apply this. Like I will pack this on some days and it never looks heavy on my skin. I love the shade of this bronzer. It has a really nice shade range too. And I love how there's just like a slight bit of sheen to it. It is amazing. A bronzer that is not worth the hype. I want to preface this by saying I do like this bronzer and I enjoy it a lot, but I feel like I just don't have the same opinion on it as other people. Like it's fine, but it's definitely not as great as I thought it was gonna be. And that is the Fenty powder bronzer. I have the shade Into Sun, and I'm actually, I think, pretty close to hitting pan on this one. I can see the ring outline in the pan, but I don't know like what it is about this bronzer that I feel like I was expecting more. Maybe it's the shade. I don't know. I mean, the shade is nice. It's a matte bronzer, which I don't mind at all. And I'm not saying it's bad. Like, I do like this and I do use it, but I would not repurchase this, and I kind of just don't think it's necessarily like worth all the hype. It's very thin, which I like, but I just can't put my finger on why this is not one of my favorites. I feel like with this bronzer, it can look heavy, and I feel like it kind of depends what brush I'm using with it. It's just like so hard pressed and so thin, and I just don't think I'm used to that. I'm not saying it's not worth it and that I wouldn't recommend it, but just out of everything that I have, I just don't think it's worth the hype as much as it gets hyped up. Okay, my bronzer with the best memory. I don't have a cream, but I do have two powders and I couldn't decide. So the first one is my Charlotte Tilbury Bronze and Glow, and the reason for this is like I can remember exactly where I was when I got this. My grandma actually got this for me for my birthday 2 years ago in October. So I wanted this forever, but it's like $70 and I was not about to spend the money on it. I also was pregnant when I got this too. So I remember driving, we lived in California at the time, and we picked this up from the mailbox and I got it and it was shattered and I was so sad. And Sephora actually sent me another one. So this was the fixed one, but at the time, like with the memory, I had the broken one, and I remember I was just swatching it and being so careful, and I was so sad. I was literally over the moon to own it, and I remember like I was like clutching it in the car. We were driving to a friend's or something for dinner, and I was just like, oh my god, I love this so much. I'm so happy. I think it was my first Charlotte Tilbury item, and I have just beaten it to death. I mean, you can see I've hit pan on both the highlighter and the bronzer, but also like it doesn't even close anymore. So yeah, I just love this. I also have to mention though my Marc Jacobs bronzer in Tantastic. Yeah, this was so hyped a really long time ago, I think by Jaclyn Hill and then pretty much everyone else on YouTube, and I wanted it so bad, and I wanted it for years, and it was one of those items that like never made it off my wish list, and it had been on my wish list since like 2015. And then in 2019 in May, I remember this because I was graduating from college. My husband got me this bronzer. He also got me the Biba palette by Natasha Denona because he looked at my Instagram and saw that I had posted that I wanted this so bad, and also the Biba palette. So he spent a pretty penny on little old me for my accomplishment of getting a degree, and I was like so shocked when I opened the gift because I was like, oh my god, and I was so happy, and I will never get rid of this bronzer for that reason, and plus I love it so much. So yes, I hold this very dear to my heart as well. Most disappointing bronzer. We're gonna start with a cream, and that is Nude Sticks Bondi Bay. I don't think there's anything wrong with this formula. We all know I love their blushes, so it's pretty much the same formula as the blushes, but it's just a bronzer shade. And I guess what disappointed me about this is just the shade. It's just a little bit too warm for my liking. Like, it's not bad, but it just disappointed me because I thought the shade was going to be different than it is. And then for a powder, it's actually the Vesca Beauty Kissed By bronzer in Rio. They sent this to me and I feel really bad. I posted a review on Instagram of some Vesca products, and I did be 100% honest on that post. I don't think this formula is bad by any means, but I feel like I don't have a good grasp on how I feel about it because this shade is so incredibly light. It does not show up on my skin, and I mean it does, but it's like barely, and it's just like, where is that bronzer? I just wanted this to be kind of more similar to like the Maybelline City bronzer in the lightest shade. I feel like these are quite similar. This has like a more of a yellowy undertone, so on me, this bronzer, when it's built up to actually show up on my skin, looks, first of all, it looks really heavy, like super powdery. It's very matte. So that's a problem I have sometimes with matte bronzers, is like building them up, you can overdo it. So that's definitely the case with this one. So for me, the shade, I feel like it's too matte. However, if I tried the next shade up, I feel like I wouldn't have to build it up as much, and then I wouldn't have that problem of it looking heavy because I wouldn't have to build it up. I guess I like a little bit of a darker bronzer for myself, because I see people that are a little bit darker than me like enjoy this shade and the Charlotte Tilbury one. So I don't know, maybe like this is the correct shade that I should be wearing, but I don't like it on my skin. It just looks like I'm wearing a foundation that is too dark for me. This is also incredibly fragranced, and it gets better like with each time I open it and use it. I feel like the scent kind of fades away, but it's like a very strong pina colada scent, and I just don't understand, like, why does a bronzer have to be scented? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I will say I like the packaging. It's really sleek and has a nice smear, so I don't know. I would like to try the shade up from this one in the future, but yeah, I was just really disappointed in it, especially because everyone on Instagram was getting PR from them and raving about this bronzer because they're so inclusive and blah blah blah, and I just felt like it was super hyped, and I was so let down when I used it. I was like, really? My most affordable bronzer as a cream is the Half Caked Candy Paint in the shade You're So Last Summer. So this is like their cream blush formula, but they did come out with a highlighter, and then I don't know if this is like supposed to be a bronzer. I'm not really sure. I think it is, but it's kind of disappointing because they only came out with this one shade, so I don't know. So yeah, there's only one shade of this, but like the other candy paints, it is $8, and honestly, I don't love this as a bronzer, just for the texture. I like the shade, but just like the texture of it, if you've tried the candy paints and the blush, you know how I rave about them. They're very pigmented and super emollient and like, you know, kind of sticky. So I don't love that in a bronzer. I don't like the super dewy look of a bronzer, so this is not my favorite for a bronzer. However, for a blush, pretty good. Bronze slash rosy toned blush, I think this would be good. But anyways, the point of this is that it is my most affordable bronzer, or cream bronzer. It is $8, and I love this formula, but not for a bronzer. It's just not my vibe. For powders, it is the Maybelline City Bronzer. I have the lightest shade, and I actually love this bronzer so much. It is what I wanted the Vesca bronzer to be, with like the shade and everything. There's the shade. I know you can't really see it, but this builds really nicely, and it doesn't look like, there it is right there. It doesn't look heavy like the Vesca one does. And the Vesca one, I'm gonna stop talking shit about it after this, but it just doesn't build. Like, it's so weird. But this one does, and I love the formula. It's a little bit powdery, which I just love that. I love a powdery bronzer, I can't lie. I highly recommend this bronzer. It is the best drugstore bronzer that I have tried so far. Most expensive bronzer. I'm not sure which one of these is the most expensive. I really don't know for cream, so I'm not going to mention a cream, but I have two powders here that are incredibly expensive. Marc Jacobs. I think this retails for like 54 bucks. I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, it is huge and the packaging is amazing. But yeah, this is very expensive. However, I did not buy this. My husband bought it for me. So I mean, we share a bank account, so I guess that kind of counts. But yeah, like, I didn't go out of my way to buy this, and the reason it was on my wish list for so long is because it was so expensive. So this was pretty pricey. I also just recently got this bad boy. This is the Hourglass bronzer in Nude Bronze Light. These retail for 52 bucks, which is fucked. I got this on Poshmark though for like $14, and it was brand new. So I am super happy with that. I want to do a video actually on all of my like thrifted makeup from like Poshmark and stuff, because I have bought a lot of things from Poshmark, and just kind of tell you my experience on there and stuff. But that will probably come like next year sometime. But yeah, I would never pay $52 for this. It's nice, but I'm glad I paid like $14 because the price is just outrageous. The next question, since it was the blush tag, was your most colorful blush. Bronzers are all brown. I was gonna change this question to your favorite color, your favorite shade bronzer. I have a lot of bronzers. There's a lot of different tones, a lot of different finishes, a lot of different depths of shade and color, but I have to say my favorite is the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil. I just love the shade. Like every time I wear it, I look so naturally tanned. It has like a little bit of a yellow undertone, and I love that for me, so I guess this would be like my favorite shade. Beginner friendly, I'm gonna go ahead and mention my Fenty Cream Bronzer again. I think that this is beginner friendly because it's very sheer and buildable and blendable. So I just feel like it's easy to work with. The swatch looks very pigmented, but like when you're applying it with a big brush, it just melts right in. It is so easy to apply. You can use your fingers, your brush, or a sponge, and it always looks good. So I think out of all my creams that this one is definitely the most beginner friendly. And then for a powder, the Maybelline City Bronzer. I just think that because it's so affordable, I think it's beginner friendly in that sense, but also just the formula alone is very blendable. Like you don't need a lot because it is kind of powdery, so it can be a little bit more pigmented, but it is so easy to blend out. Like I feel like this is just the perfect formula for someone who's just starting out. I just feel like it blends not only easily, but very quickly. So you can kind of just throw this on if you're a beginner and you don't have to work with it at all. Least practical. Definitely the Cover FX bronzer drops for the packaging alone. Anything in a dropper bottle kind of annoys me. However, I do really love this bronzer. I owned it in the past before they like repackaged everything, and then I just got this one recently sent to me, and I haven't used it that much yet, but it is just very impractical. It's hard to gauge how much you need, and just like the packaging really, it's like why? Honestly, I don't have like a go-to bronzer combo. I usually do a cream and then I do a powder, and it's kind of just whichever one I feel like using that day. So I'm gonna skip that one. The most underrated bronzer is definitely the Oma Beauty contour stick, the bronzer side. So this is a dual-ended contour stick. So they've got a highlighter on one end and a bronzer on the other. I love this product so much, and you guys probably know that if you follow me on Instagram, but I know it's a contour, but like I love the shade for bronzing also because I feel like it pulls very neutral on me. Again, if you have seen any videos, I might have mentioned this before, but a lot of things that are cool on other people pull kind of neutral on me. Like, do you see that? It doesn't look gray. So I like to use this as a bronzer. I'm wearing it today underneath my powder bronzer, and it is probably my all-time favorite product in makeup. That's a big statement, but it's true. I have a backup of this. I found a backup at Marshall's for like $10. So I picked it up. This retails for 40 bucks, which is pretty ridiculous. I got this one on sale on their website for $15, and then I found another one at Marshall's. So I have a backup of this, and I just love it. I love both sides, but the bronzer is like my perfect shade. Okay, worst bronzer ever. I just feel like that is too strong of a statement for me to commit to. I don't think any of these bronzers are like the worst bronzer ever, but if I had to choose one, if I had to, it would be the Vesca one. That's all I'm gonna say. Favorite bronzer of all time? Man, I have literally like 6 of them that I can't really decide, but I just want to tell you my top 3 creams, my top 3 powders, because it's just I can't mention one and then like not say, but I love this one like just as much, you know? So creams, I'm sure you can already guess what my favorite is, but I'm gonna go from like 3rd, 2nd to 1st. So actually I just got this like literally a couple of weeks ago. It's the Tarte Sea Breezy bronzer, but this reminds me a lot of the Milk Baked bronzer, but I feel like better texture for me. Like it's not as kind of like sticky. It's a little bit more creamy than that one, and I love it so far. So I wouldn't say it's my favorite of all time, obviously, because I haven't had it that long, but it is like in my top 3 right now. It's really great. Second place goes to my Fenty cream bronzer, Butter Biscuit. Amazing. I would probably have this as number 1 if it was in a stick form, possibly, but my number 1 is the Oma Beauty contour stick. I freaking love this thing, and I already talked so highly of it, so I won't go on and on, but it is definitely my all-time favorite cream bronzer ever. It's amazing. These two compared, like on a scale of like how much I like them, this is a 10. This is a 9.5. For powders, I think third place goes to the Maybelline City Bronzer. I love this. I always get compliments on how bronze and tan I look, and like naturally tanned when I wear this. And yeah, it's my favorite. I actually, like, sometimes I have brought this traveling with me over high-end bronzers, so I just think it's freaking amazing, especially for drugstore. I really wasn't expecting this bronzer to be anything special, but I was so blown away, and I think that made it like that much better for me was because it's so affordable. And I'm usually the type of person, like, I will get rid of a lot of drugstore stuff because I'm just like, meh, whatever, like I don't really care about it, but this I will use every last drop. I love it so much, so that is in my top 3. Second place goes to my Becca bronzer, the Bali Sands. I just love this. It's newer to me within the past year, but I just love it so much. It's amazing. My number 1 all-time favorite bronzer, maybe, I don't know if it's more than the Oma Beauty one, but it is definitely my top favorite powder bronzer, is the Too Faced Milk Chocolate Soleil. This is the best bronzer. It smells like chocolate, tastes like chocolate. The shade is wonderful. I look so tan when I wear this. I love the undertone. Just something about this makes me so happy. Anyways, guys, that was the bronzer tag. I have a few bronzers that I did not mention just because they didn't really fall into any of these categories. Stay tuned because in January I'm actually going to be doing a declutter every single day for the first 2 weeks of January. So that's going to be really fun. You guys will see my entire collection in those videos, and then after those declutters I'll be sure to film like a vanity tour for you guys, or like a collection tour, and so you guys can see everything that I kept, like an overview, and I will tell you my thoughts on each product. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed. If you didn't see last Thursday's blush tag, I will leave it linked down below, so that way you can go ahead and watch that, and then stay tuned for next Thursday because I'm going to be doing the highlighter tag. Thank you so much again for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe before you go, and I will see you next time. Bye.